All right, people.
Hello.
This is another installment of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our mind. We are your hosts. I'm Crazy Dee.
Tracey.
And we are coming here to review films that are important to the culture and talk about movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our mind at the time. All right, so we just came back from watching Kin.
A really good
K-I-N.
film. Yep, it's a really good film.
Yeah, Kin. K-I-N.
Yes.
Let's talk about who stars in it.
The lead character, his name is Miles Truitt. And Miles Truitt, he plays the character of Eli.
Okay, so now let's talk about Eli for a minute. Eli is a young kid of 14. A young kid. Kid is a calf. A young boy of 14 years old that is now coming into manhood, and he finds himself in trouble a lot at school. And when the story picks up, he's been suspended from junior high school, well, middle school. And so his father, who's played by Dennis Quaid, and then Dennis Quaid, what's his character?
Dennis Quaid's character is Hal.
Okay.
Last name is Selinsky.
Okay. So this is a story based, well, we'll get to that.
Well, yeah,
okay,
based on a short film.
Yeah, it's based on a short film, but so his father then has him at home and has him doing chores.
Right.
But in between time and in the meantime, the city that they use to tell this story is Detroit, and it is Detroit, Michigan, and it is very instrumental in shaping the film. It has its own storyline going on within the film itself, and it is the world that we find ourselves in when we began watching the film. We find that in the young child's time, spare time, he's out and he is a scrapper. He goes around into the old factories and he pulls scrap metal, precious scrap metal that can get money from junkyards like copper.
Right.
So anyone who has watched the different documentaries about what they call the Rust Belt, Cleveland is part of the Rust Belt, Detroit is part of the Rust Belt, any other places that had Midwest factories that produced steel or produced other textiles, where now these factories lay now abandoned and open for those who are not, should we say, in the best of economic conditions. They go in and they scrap, which is pulling copper and any other precious metals that they can turn in to get pennies on the dollar for.
Okay.
And that's what's happening in Detroit. That's what's happening in Cleveland and other places. So when we first opened up and we saw some of the factories, we said, this could be based in Cleveland. But then I looked at it and I said, no, because I don't see any Cleveland landmarks in the back, because you look for things that are familiar.
Yeah, because they do a lot of shooting films in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously now they're doing it. They must have a film commission in Detroit, and they're doing a lot of filming in Detroit, I guess, because this is where it's based. So once I looked around before they actually showed you where they actually were, I said, oh, this must be Detroit. And so
like the next film, the Avengers. A lot of the Avengers, the different ones, that shoot in Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think that you're seeing New York skyline and New York streets, you're actually seeing Cleveland, Ohio streets. Okay. Let me move.
There we go.
All right. So he's a scrapper.
Right.
And he's in the middle of all of this. And at the same time, we find out and we discover that
he has a brother.
He has a brother who comes home from prison.
Played by Jack Rayner, and his brother's character's name is Jimmy.
Jimmy, right. So he comes home, and there's a couple of initiating events. The first initiating event, because this is a group ensemble piece, so the first initiating event is the little boy is in the factory and he sees something that he shouldn't see.
Right, and you've seen that in the trailers, because we're not giving out any spoilers.
So he sees what he sees. Then the brother comes home,
right, and
then you've also saw this in the trailers, where he meets up with, walks into the office with, what's his name?
Oh, James Franco.
James Franco.
Right.
And so you saw that in the trailer. So there is a dramatic need that he needs, and that's an initiating event.
And
also,
James Franco is playing Taylor.
Yeah. And so that's his initiating event,
right,
as far as what he needs. He's in Hawk. He owes something to them, and they want it back. So
there is where the film takes off. Zoe Kravitz is also in the film, and she does a really great job in the film. Right. Yeah.
So this is one of those films that is comes from off of the success of Panther, because at the end of the film you find out that Michael B. Jordan executive produced this film.
Right.
And they had said during the time of Panther that they were going to use their capital to produce films that were interesting within their interest, and they wanted to put it up and give people new, and they've done.
And Michael B. Jordan reconnect. Oh, we're back. And Michael B. Jordan opened up the door for another young up and coming actor.
Right. Him
being the executive producer. And the actor is the star of the film.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, Miles Pruitt.
Right. Truitt. It's with a T.
Oh.
Truitt. You pronounced it and you said Pruitt.
I'm thinking of football players back home.
Mike Pruitt. Yeah, Mike Pruitt. Yeah.
But in the film, what I really liked, well, the acting was really good. I mean, James Franco was in the film, so you pretty much know that the acting is going to be good. He's not going to just be in any film, but the visual effects were outstanding, as well as the special effects. So what do you think?
Oh yeah, the special effects, the CGI, the action in the film. This is a action film. But what I like about the new films that are coming out, then we're gonna get on the politics of the film.
Right.
What I like about the new films that are coming out, like when you watch Panther, for those who haven't seen Panther, or for those who might have seen it but not looked through it from through the lens or the eye of a filmmaker, watch it again. Not only out of all the Marvel films, the dramatic acting in Panther is phenomenal. The love story that you see, the conflict within the drama that you see between people who may not believe in what the way a Black Panther believes in running, Wakanda. The whole dramatic element of dramatic acting is elevated. And in this film, like when you watch films, I would put this on the level of like a Terminator 1, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there's a reference to Terminator in the film. You'll see it. But when you look at Terminator, there was not much dramatic acting. It was action, and then there would be dialogue between the characters, but it wasn't anything necessarily that you could feel. It was more just to move the story along and let you know what was actually happening and why it was happening, how the characters are introduced together, and how the young scientist that would try to destroy the Terminators came about. But in this film, the dramatic acting and the acting with Dennis Quaid and the young man who played his son, and then Dennis Quaid with the jailbird son that came home.
Right.
The acting in that is incredible.
Yeah.
James Franco, to me, seemed to be a little more laid back in the film. He wasn't pulling his all out.
He played his position.
Yeah, he played his position. He really didn't have to, overshadow or try to be as dramatic as he had to be. He was just there playing a part. He was more like in Terminator. He was just there to tell the story and move the story along.
Yeah, because Jack Rayner and Miles Truitt, they did an excellent job together. There was a few scenes, when you said, "Oh, that was a Oscar performance," right?
Yeah, there's one scene when the young kid discovers.
Oh, well, there's one scene.
There's one scene where the young kid discovers something.
Don't tell.
I'm not telling it.
Okay.
He discovers something,
and it's an award-winning scene.
But his dramatic and his facial expressions, because film is about close-up. Stage is about projection. Film is about the close-up and being able to sell the emotion to the people, and he sells this when he discovers a fact about something that happens.
Right.
And so you have to go see this film. Now,
so definitely go see this film.
It's definitely one that you need to put in, because it is coming off of the success of Black Panther with the executive producer status Michael B. Jordan. Right. Now, the politics of the film. What's interesting about this film, now we've talked about how the Japanese are kind of like taking over the studios, and how they're like more moving in, and then you see like more Chinese studios coming in. It's more like, to me, a cover. Well, this film right here is again another joint venture that you will see between a Hong Kong studio and a European American studio, and with a black executive production to it. So it's a great combination of this when these stories, because what I notice about the stories that are coming out, they are not diversity stories where
they're just great stories and people playing.
They're multicultural stories. Right. So you will see more than just one black person in the film, because it's multicultural. So you're gonna see more than one black person. You're gonna see several. Right. And you're gonna enjoy the film most definitely. Yeah, so the politics. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because in this film, we have black people in the film. We have Caucasian, Latino, as well as Asians. It's a good film, and the writing is good also.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about the writing for a minute, right? Because the writing is very important. It's part of the politics. Right. Are you gonna see those racist tropes in the film? This movie. Well, there is one, and I will. It's semi. I will give a spoiler because it's a nod to a situation, but it's not. The person is not saying it in a negative way, but the writer put it in there to give people pause and also alert people at the same time to a phenomenon going on as far as the lemonade stand. Right. Okay. So when you see that piece in the film, that's a nod to that, and to give people awareness. A lemonade stand, and the person says, "I'm not upset for you about that." Right.
When you think of kids are connected to lemonade. I mean, I had one.
Right. But with the phenomenon going on where white supremacists are coming up and asking, do young black children have lemonade? Do they have a license to be selling out on the corner lemonade? Just to break up their entrepreneurial spirit, just to try to make it seem like, we're in South Africa somewhere during the apartheid, where you had to have licenses and you had to be able to just have a piece of paper to say that you were able to travel one place or another or be able to do anything. That's some BS. So that was a nod to that. But other than that, the writing is a combination of drama and action. drama and action, well fused together.
Right.
It's a new genre, and I think it's going to be tagged. You have dramedy, where it's comedy and drama together.
Right.
But this action drama situation,
Sci-fi.
oh yeah, add in sci-fi,
Right.
in a setting in Detroit.
Right.
I mean, it's a whole new category of film altogether, and we have to figure out what we would call that. We're going to work on that, and we'll have it for you in future episodes. So I believe that more films like this are going to be coming out, and what you find out in the film is that it's got to be a sequel.
Yeah, it has to be.
And then it has to be a prequel.
Yeah.
Then it has to be part 2, part 3, part 4. You know what I mean?
Well, after learning that it's based on a short film, I could see it having like multiple stories behind this one film that was based on a short film, and they turned into a feature film.
And see, that's very important to say, because I tell a lot of people, they contact me about filming for them, and they say, I have this idea, and I wrote this book, or I have this. I say, well, we could take the first 15 or 25 pages from out of it and turn it into a 15-minute short film. Right? And from there, you're able to have your idea down, and then you're able to go, pitch that and show that, and people are like, oh no, I want to do it. And then what happens in the end is their thing is never done, and I'm trying to tell them how I've learned that it works to get your story across.
But what many people don't know is many films are based on short films. But I think the average person, and even people who are interested in films and shooting films, most people don't sit through the credits or either take time to read the credits to find out that this film the film came from a short film. So there are many films that have been turned into a full feature film based off of a short film. But many people don't know that.
I had a film instructor one time who would constantly tell this story over and over about how he was in Hollywood after he had went through film school, and he had a 15-minute short, and he was on the fast track, and everyone he would meet with would say, well, let's take this 15-minute film and turn it into a feature. And so he would turn him down. So he got in front of the last person who was really big in the industry in Hollywood, and she offered him the same thing. And he said, why would I want to remake this film when I have other ideas? And that shut the door on him right there, because he did not realize. People don't realize how many times doors are closed on them because they just don't take up the 15-minute short. Because if anyone knows, for those who are filmmakers who know what it takes to make a film, 15-minute film is nothing to scoff at or laugh at if you're doing all the angles and you're making sure the lighting is right. A 15-minute film done right is your gateway in, is your key to the door, to open the door, to push you through if done right. But people don't understand, and people think that things happen overnight, and they don't. Okay, so that was a point that I wanted to get across, because we were talking about how it was made out of a short film. And from that to be a short film to this, well thought out, each area, because this is actually a hero's journey on film, where the boy is in one aspect, he's introduced to a new world, he has to go through training, which he trains himself, then it goes through and it keeps going on, then it goes and he's introduced to new characters to become his friends in the film. That's the hero's journey. And this is what this film is about a young black male, who everyone knows, 14 years old, that's when the manly feel comes about a person, and he has this. Now you've seen this in the preview, so we're not giving any spoilers either. He finds this weapon,
right,
and he's, just posing with the weapon. It's showing you that when you see images like on Facebook where the young boys are holding pistols,
right,
and they will point.
Right.
All boys, no matter what race they are.
Right.
By the way, it's only one race on the planet, but being that they divided it up, we stayed simplistic and break it up. It doesn't matter what race the little kid is. That same thing, if they're in Japan or China, and it's not so much guns, but it's weapons of martial arts or the samurai sword in Japan, that's what they're going to pose with and do that. That doesn't make them criminal. That just makes them what young boys are when they start to feel themselves and certain things to go along with hunting or being in a gun culture or being in a weapon culture. This is what it is. It doesn't make them criminal.
And just being a kid who grew up playing with action figures, and watching films, that had
gunplay
in it, whether
cops
it was
and robbers,
cops and robbers,
westerns,
right? All of that. But yeah,
so you shouldn't be just because you see someone or they're throwing the middle finger,
right?
Because they're feeling their oats, as the old sayings used to say. That doesn't mean that you criminalize them because the other groups of people are doing the same thing.
Now, in the movie, and definitely this is not like a kid's film. I mean, there's adults throughout the film. This young man is the only 15-year-old, whatever, in the film. So it's definitely an adult film, and it's great for adults to go out and see. If you have a teenager, great for them to go out and see too.
Yeah, no profanity though.
Yeah, yes, it was great, no profanity. And what I liked, like I said, was it's just like all of the action and the visual effects. And there were scenes in this movie, and you can hear in the theater, people are like, "Wow, oh!" I mean, the visual effects, are just, it's just amazing. It's worth seeing it just to see the actual visual effects and to actually be in. I'm surprised it wasn't in 3D. That would have been really good.
Yeah, that would have been really good.
Yeah.
It probably will part 3, or Ken part 3. It will be in 3D.
Yeah.
But knowing how scripts are written, what is off screen is the sound effects and off screen made people in the theater go, oh,
right, amazing.
Oh my God, off screen while there's another scene playing, kind of like Operation Finale. What's happening off screen, they show you what it leads up to, then they cut to another scene that's happening, and the person is listening, and you hear all this happening off screen. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? So in that aspect, beautiful filmmaking, beautiful editing from off of the script, and the editor took the script along with the director and sat there and cut this film in such a beautiful way. The colors used to stimulate. Like there's a scene where the boy comes into another new world that had to do with ladies, and it makes you go back to that time when you're, as a male, 14 years old, and you're just now getting to get around and see, you see more women. As you get older, you start to get to see more women, and it's one of those things that it flashed me back to one New Year's Eve party that we went to at a hotel, and they had floor entertainment, and that's where you first see some things that you usually wouldn't see, and it kind of like threw me back to that time, and I was around 14 at the time. So it's really interesting, and it takes you back to that time when it's a time of innocence and it's coming in, but at the same time, the boy is not weak ever in the film.
No.
He is never weak in the film. He does what he has to do, and they drop some code in the film. They drop some code in the film between the two brothers.
Right.
I mean, it's word, it's bond code that they drop in there within the dialogue, which is beautiful. I said they drop in code
along with the father also.
Yeah, with the father, it had to do with the father,
right?
You know, dropping code, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's well worth seeing.
Right. Oh, and the music is really great. Like in each scene, the music is really great. The score fit was really good. It was fitting with the film.
Okay, someone who steals the show in the film. Oh, go ahead, finish up the score
before we wrap it up and move on.
Yeah.
Of course, Miles Truitt.
No. I would say Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, she did really good.
See, Zoe Kravitz is in the film.
Yeah,
and it's a shocker because you don't expect her. The scene that comes up, you don't expect to see her in the film. Right? And, you know, there's the old adage.
Although they show her in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. Okay,
that's not a spoiler, but you see, so yeah, but the scene that you see her in, you don't expect to see her in when she's introduced as a character. And she comes through and, you know, there's old adages that are said that we won't give away because that would be spoiling, but there's old adages and she stays true to that, but yet at the same time, she is more than just that, and you will see what we're saying when you see the film. Okay, so now.
So we go from
what do we rate?
Oh, go. We rate. I rated it. I would give it a. I would have to give it a 10.
A 10?
I'd have to.
Okay,
I'd give
why?
it a 10 because the writing, the action, the acting, the visual effects, as well as the special effects. It was really good because there wasn't a slow period in the movie. Like, the movie kept you, like, really ingrained into the film from beginning to end, because I noticed in the theater, no one went to the restroom. Usually there's 1 or 2 people, 3, whatever, getting up, going back and forth to the restroom. This movie, you were into it from beginning to end. There wasn't a slow period at all.
You know, you're right about that. There was no doldrum in this film. There was no time where, okay, all the action happened and then they had to recycle to come up to the end. It was moving and it was introducing new characters. Even in the last 1/3 of the film, they were introducing new characters that were going to lead into, I believe, to be a sequel.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So what would
Donna says.
So what would I give this? Let's see. I think I'll give it a 10. Because for one thing, it's politics on my end. One, because Michael B. Jordan executive produced it. And he wasn't going to put his name on anything that seemed like it would be possible to not succeed. So that's one thing. So I give that a 10 for that. And again, it's off of the success of Panther, and they're using their capital to create films with new voices.
Right.
And we need new voices in Hollywood because we can't keep on having the same voices where there's always a white male lead that's the star of the film and no one else is the star of the film. They're just the sidekicks. We got to get over that because the world is turning more brown, black and brown every day.
So you give it a 10.
I give it a 10.
And it was good. And again, the score was great. And speaking of score, moving into music.
Music. Oh, yes. I think someone who is very high up in the hip-hop echelon that would be up there, I guess, with a J, a Nicki.
Just dropped the album.
Just dropped the album.
Right.
His name is Eminem.
Right. He dropped Kamikaze.
Yes, Kamikaze.
Right.
We will be brief on this because you do have to go out and get this album. Eminem's last 2 albums to me were he has this style that he does, which is a
But
and I'm like, but this album, if you remember what he did on Nicki Minaj's latest album called Queen, then you will definitely be enjoying this because the flipping Eminem, the fast trigger Eminem from the days of Earl when he first got with Dr. Dre.
Right.
Forgot about Dre.
Right.
This is what this album is.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's now, but he is flipping on it, and he gives you different elements. And being that this movie was based in Detroit, and he's from Detroit,
it's appropriate.
It's appropriate because he gives you not only what the industry is doing with the South trap beats, but he also gives you some Detroit beats too, which
lyrics.
Is heavy Detroit feel, because the Detroit feel comes from, we like to, because in Cleveland we have a sound, an eerie sound that comes from Lake Erie, and so we have an eerie sound to our beat construction in Detroit, because they're Michigan, Lake Michigan. It's all in what the body of water does to the city as far as snow is concerned, as far as heat in the summertime is concerned. So theirs is a little more clear. It's not as eerie in the middle like how we produce in Lake Erie. So it's similar because we're both Midwest cities, but not exactly. And you will enjoy this album. If you like Young Sean albums, who's also from Detroit, you will love this Eminem album. He is motivated, he is driven, because he believes that he's been ignored and disrespected and talked down on as far as his previous efforts. So he is motivated, he is energized, and is back to delivering the rapid fire, high energy Eminem that people loved from the very beginning.
Because he just dropped it from the sky Thursday night, late night, and today, is Saturday, and
it went number one.
They said it's already number one. So
no, it's funny how life is, isn't it, people? All of this that I'm getting ready to mention is our music, but it's funny. The number one rapper in the game is Eminem, who is white, and the number one rocker in the world is Lenny Kravitz, who's a black man. All the music came from us, but as people take it, and also always in rock, the greatest guitar player ever was Jimi Hendrix. Prince would come in at a number 2 as far as being able to get on the guitar and bring home some great masterpieces as far as the guitar is concerned. I mean, of course, B.B. King and all that. All this comes from us, blues and all that. But so what I'm saying, it's weird that
and Jay-Z and Eminem are both number one.
No doubt. What I'm saying to you is, I know that Jay-Z is number one, but I'm saying for the larger masses of people, when you're looking at it, these are the two people who are number one in the game, in the larger mass of people. You see what I'm saying? No doubt, we know with us that Jay-Z should take number one. Speaking of people who are
and Nicki also, we gotta put her.
Yeah. Because Nicki is not only a female rapper, which
she's a rapper.
Wait, because Roxanne Shante said that Curtis Blow coined the phrase
female rapper.
And so when she was battling and he had her be number, no, he didn't coin it. They voted, and when she was battling, and they made her come runner up, and then when the people came up, they started saying, "You're good. You're cold for a female rapper," and that's how the phrase was coined and stuck. But before that, it was all just MC. There was no gender break on it. If you were a good MC, you were a good MC. So Nicki Minaj is not only a female MC, she is a great MC. So we have to be clear about that. Now, speaking of people, go pick up the Eminem album, worth getting. And that's, for me, that's really big coming from me, right? So, Next up.
We don't want to play the album.
Next up. Oh my.
That's Tidal.
Okay, that's Tidal coming on. They said they heard Eminem through the phone. Boy, you know, this artificial intelligence is something, isn't it?
Right.
But anyway, so listen. The Aretha Franklin, they were calling it a funeral, and they really didn't say going, but we say homegoing, but let's just say, okay. Like I said, the Aretha Franklin funeral homegoing went on, and it was an extravaganza of.
We're back.
All right, yeah, had to avoid some damage here. Okay, so it was an extravaganza.
Let's see. Hi, Shantae.
Okay, it was a extravaganza of remembrance, music, and politics.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you.
Right.
I don't know about you out there, but I know what I was looking forward to.
Right.
I sat up and watched it from the time that I was editing on some projects, that I went to the radio station and film, live stream Like It Is radio. Everybody was sitting up waiting, that I knew of, were waiting for Minister Louis Farrakhan from the Nation of Islam to speak. If anybody remembers what he did at Rosa Parks' homegoing celebration, he might as well have been the eulogist, because his piece was so elegant and graceful that, you know, it's something to remember. If you have never seen it, you need to go to YouTube and type in Minister Louis Farrakhan at Rosa Parks homegoing and watch that and see what was missed. It's basically, this is all Detroit today. When I wrote on Minister Farrakhan's Instagram page, he's handling this with grace, as he should, because he's done so much to advance people's minds into coming into knowledge of self and loving oneself, and not trying to be like something else other than yourself. He's done so much that everyone that came up on stage, a lot of them went to him first, hugging him. And the national cameras were trying to cut away from a lot of the action, but you know, as rhythm goes, they don't have any. So black rhythm, when they would cut back, you would see the people hugging him.
Yeah.
They would run up to him first and hug him.
Right.
They hugged him, Al, Jesse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know what TV1 was doing. They cut it off after 12 on the live stream on YouTube. They cut it off after 12 after Clinton spoke.
Right.
We have to get go ahead.
Switched over to Time.
Yeah.
They broadcast the entire
thing for 7, but we have to, as a people, get away from the love affair with the Clintons. Right. Okay? If the Clintons, at this point, the Clintons cannot take the temperature in the room correctly.
Right.
If this was supposed to be something so Hillary could come back for a third time, she should forget it, because they needed to, with what they've done to the black community, the 3 strikes, 100,000 more officers on the street, which a lot of those officers are out there, and they said the FBI has already said that the police organizations are infiltrated by white supremacist organizations, and a lot of those police officers were hired during the time when Clinton was in office, and all that they have done to the black community, there is no love affair with them anymore. And so that's where we should be with that. But you know, everybody their own opinion, but Clinton nor her did anything for us. Okay, so, and if the economy was good, it was good for everyone, but it wasn't focused on just us, or we would have advanced further than what we've advanced. Okay. All right, so Farrakhan is up on the desk, up there on the stage, the Diaz up there on the stage, and he's sitting there, and we're like, well, when is he going to speak?
Right.
You know, you're going all through this, and he sits up there, and he's sitting there, and people are showing him so much love that I guess he was getting a kick because he had a smile on his face.
Yeah, the music,
you know,
Fantasia,
the music. Yeah, he had
Jennifer Hudson.
He had
Clark Sisters.
Yeah, right. He had a smile on his face,
right? Because
everyone was coming over there and smiling at him. So no matter what they did, but however, like I wrote on his Instagram page to him, I said, "This is Detroit black leadership failure. Failure. He should have been up there speaking right after Clinton spoke.
Yeah.
Or before Clinton spoke.
Yeah.
Because remember, they said that Clinton was the first black president. He wore a size 15 shoe. He played the saxophone on Arsenio. He once tried weed, but he didn't inhale. He was the first so-called black president. But guess what? He wasn't a black president.
President Obama
was the first black president. And President Obama, we'll get on that in a minute, because he wasn't even there. He went to McCain's thing. And I remember during the time when Tavis would have State of the Black Union, President Obama said when he was running, when he had to go to Illinois for some event, he said, I would send Michelle in my stead. Well, because they're married and they're one, and she's supposed to be able to handle where he cannot step in. She can intercede. Well, you should have sent Michelle there to speak. So that's a big disrespect. As many times as Aretha Franklin sung at different things that the Obamas had. But, you know, they don't need that anymore because Michelle's not running, so they don't need to act like they love the black community anymore. But that's neither here nor there. So they sit up there and they do this, and then Stevie comes out and has to say black lives do matter. And why did Stevie have to say that?
Yeah, why? Because the minister before him,
Jasper Williams, who delivered the eulogy, not only did he trash on Reverend C.L. Franklin, but he trashed on Aretha Franklin. And he first started, it sounded real good what he was saying at first about how black people have to whatever he was saying. But then he switched over to before black lives can matter any place else, it has to matter with us. That is coon talk. That is coon talk. Every group of people on the planet Earth, every group of people on the planet Earth have their within interracial, as one of the great minds that I have had a chance to talk to says, interracial arguments amongst themselves about turf, about who's this and who's that, and that happens in between each group. We as black people,
it doesn't matter where you live, because if you're in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, you're going to have white on white crime. Latino predominantly neighborhood, Latino, and on, Asian on Asian. So this whole what about that black on black crime? I mean, it was kind of like, but I'm glad that not just the viewers who were watching it in the chat room kind of like going off, what is this man saying? You had Michael Dyson, Eric Dyson, and then you had even Stevie Wonder had to say Black Lives Matter. I mean, and then they showed the Franklin family after this man, the
grandchildren.
After he leaves the stage, after saying what clapping. He said, they're looking like,
they're not clapping. They're looking like, when is Minister Farrakhan coming out? Like, that's what everyone was waiting on. I sat up there and watched all that time for Minister Farrakhan to come out and speak. Listen, I have a colleague that we do a podcast called Nothing But the Facts, and he alluded on his Like It Is radio show that I also shoot that there were people up on the dais, and they're all up in age. Farrakhan's up in age, Al Sharpton's up in age, Jesse Jackson up in age. Who's new for the children? Farrakhan's message, the Nation of Islam message, has always captured the ear of the youth because it's unflinching. It doesn't pull any punches as far as what's actually happening in the black community to black men, black women, black boys, black girls. And it's about an upliftment message that has spanned decades, since the 40s. So when we look at messages, Farrakhan's message, it was just something that Detroit, the black Detroit leadership that was, in my opinion, licking and lapping up under Bill Clinton and not wanting to offend Bill Clinton, or looking at the social media and the so-called white liberals who are white liberals for their agenda, who were saying, why do they have Farrakhan up on the stage? Well, then you know that they're bigoted, because Farrakhan has never done anything but told the truth for black people.
And the thing about it is, everyone that was placed on stage who were supposed to speak regarding Aretha Franklin, they all had like friendship with her, relationship with her. Everyone had a story. So clearly, Farrakhan had a friendship with her, and he was there to speak. And my thing is, you had this 85-year-old man sitting on the stage for 6 hours. So you had him, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, as well as other people who were friends of Aretha Franklin. So Reverend Al Sharpton left. Clinton was on the stage. He left. Jesse would go back and forth to leave. I would assume maybe to go to the restroom. It was 6 hours. So meanwhile, the minister is sitting there waiting to speak. He was told he was going to speak. He was sitting there for 6 hours. I'm like, you all have this 85-year-old man sitting there for 6 hours, and somehow you decided to cut him out from the program without letting him know, and everyone else is leaving, and then the stage is filled with another group of people, and then you have this is where Eric Michael Dyson comes in, Michael Eric Dyson, and Judge Matthews was there. Was there, and then as well as a couple other men. So they're like switching out and moving around, and the minister is still sitting there for 6 hours. Now, mind you, he's 85 years old. So it was wrong.
I mean, it's wrong, and I, as surely as I am getting ready to say this, they will pay for this through karma-wise. They will pay. They might as well just get ready. They might as well just get ready, because they will pay for this. You do not have a man who has sat up there and has constantly, his message has never changed. He has never taken a bribe. He has never changed his viewpoint on the advancement of black people and what it takes for black people to rise. He speaks truth to power, and you will sit up there and let this mush mouth, in my opinion, this mush mouth Jasper Williams get up there and not only destroy C.L. Franklin, how say that what Aretha Franklin was doing, singing blues, was somehow wrong, even though her father said that it's his daughter and it was right to him. And for them to do that, automatically, that is karma.
And we're back.
Okay,
and the way they described Aretha Franklin, and it's fitting, because each person that came up to talk about her, they talked about how she was unapologetically black, right? And she loved her people. She was there. Who was it? Al Sharpton had said on MSNBC the day Aretha died. He said that there were times she would call him. Well, what's going on with such and such? You know, for instance, like the Eric Gardner or Trayvon Martin, or just there's been so many murders, right? You know, and so she was calling them about that. What's going on with that? Do you need money? What's going on with the family? So that's the type of person she was. And then he talked about at the funeral, they talked about her and Harry Belafonte would fund Martin Luther King.
Because Martin Luther King was about to go into bankruptcy.
Right.
Because he was funding this himself.
Right.
All the black people who say they love civil rights today,
right,
they were nowhere around
right,
to help fund the movement.
Right.
If it wasn't for Harold Belafonte
and
Aretha Franklin,
right,
we wouldn't be enjoying living where we live today.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was only a core group of people, because
right,
everybody else was like, well, I don't want to cause no trouble because I got a good job, right, and I just like that preacher that got up there,
yeah,
you know, that my opinion, that much my preacher, well, we's got to do something about black on black crime before we do something about them killing us.
So
in
it
the
went
streets
from uplifting
to degradation.
It was just weird. So, but the thing about it is, they talked about how Aretha would perform during her schedule while she was recording, and she had other things going on. She would record to help raise money for Martin Luther King, as well as other civil rights activists.
Go out and actually have concerts.
Right, concerts.
And donate
no
the money.
Right. Yeah, she wouldn't charge them to do it. She would have the concerts and donate the money to the cause. So this is the type of woman she was, right? And then, of course, okay, so I can see the connection with her and the minister now, right? So, I mean, it's just sad, because you do find that when a person passes away, it turns from actually the funeral being about them and their wishes to actually what others want.
Exactly.
You know, so instead of respecting that person's wishes who passed away, it turns into those who are alive deciding to do what they want to do, and they forget to respect the wishes of the person who passed away.
Sure, as I'm sitting here saying this, they will, through karma, pay for that, for having this man sit up on the stage. And you know who brought it home for him, indirectly but directly, was Michael Eric Dyson. Yeah. And they embraced after Michael Eric Dyson said what he had to say. Right. And so this is where we're going to end this. We came out, all of this had to do with Detroit.
Right.
Detroit, Michigan.
The movie Can.
That's right.
Kamikaze.
Eminem.
Right.
And the homegoing funeral of Aretha Franklin, and all of the major cluster F that it was, as far as just trying to for no reason at all, throw shade at Minister Louis Farrakhan for no reason, other than you would rather want to be around a group of people who have traditionally shown you they don't want to be around you, and they would rather see you hanging from a tree. So that's what we're in at. You would rather want to be around a group of people who would want to see you hanging from a tree, castrated, genitals mutilated, burnt at the stake, than to deal with your...
We are back. But in closing, well, Bill Clinton didn't even stay, which was, he said what he had to say and bounced. So, but anyway, it was great to learn all of that about Aretha Franklin, because I knew her as a performer, but I just didn't know like all of the stuff that she did and how much she loved black people, because it was just reiterated like from like family members, you know, her friends, and just, I didn't know she was so pro-black up until she passed, you know. So may she rest in peace.
That's it. May she rest in paradise. Right. There's a concert going up in heaven.
Right. And I wish they just had to respect her wishes.
That's all.
That's all.
All right. So we're out of here. Calling it a day. And we're out. See you next time. This has been another great talk, another great episode of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm a stickler for that, because I know what it's like to have seen a loved one pass away and to see people not respect their wishes once they pass, because then it turns into a selfishness, I think, for some people. And it's really important to carry out the wishes and to respect those who have passed on.
That's right.
Okay.
And so and take it from two people who have lost two people that were some of the closest persons to them.
Right.
You best believe that we know exactly what we're talking about. And so that, seeing Farrakhan sit up there, and he doesn't have that much time left.
Yeah, it's just sad.
And it's sad and it's angering because someone out of ego didn't follow what they had to say, and we've experienced that. Right. So that's it. So in closing, you have been watching another great episode of the Film Review, movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our mind.